Hey folks, I'm Vasel.
Jason Levine.
Today we are taking a look at one of the most famous games of the 20th century. It came out in the 50s, I believe, and that is Diplomacy. This is, is this the original version of Diplomacy?
Actually, no, this is the Avalon Hill, which was the second version. There was a version that came in a giant box.
Okay, yeah, this one came out in 76, but there was one before this, and there have been many after it.
Yes. Diplomacy
has been in and out of print for, like I said, 60 plus years. It is a game, well, about diplomacy. It starts pre-World War I and goes kind of through World War I. And it looks, when you first look at it, well, I never had heard of Diplomacy before I played it, and I looked at it and I was like, oh, it looks like a war game. But it's not really.
No, I mean, it has war game elements to it, territorial takeovers, but it's a game about negotiation.
Yeah, so let's take a look at it, and then we'll tell you what we think. Here's the board for Diplomacy, and if you'll see, there are 7 different countries on the board, or they're called great powers. We have Russia, which is the only great power to start with 4 units. We have Austria-Hungary, Turkey, Italy, Germany, France, and England. Each of these is going to start with armies. You can see that there's an army piece here, and there are fleets. The difference between army and fleets are armies can move on land only, fleets can move on water, or on any land that is adjacent to water. And fleets can also transport army units. So there's a slight difference between them. There's a lot of areas on the board that fleets can't go to, and of course armies can't go into any of the ocean spots. Now over the course of this game, players are trying to get 18 supply centers. These are these black dots on the board. The black dots are going to actually determine the number of pieces that you can have on any given turn. So since Russia starts with 4 of these supply centers, they start with 4 units. Everyone else starts with 3. The game is also split into turns. Each turn is a year, so each year has a spring and a fall. And after the fall, if you have more supply centers than you have units, then you will add more units to the board, while if you don't, you will lose units. And when you add new units, they will start in the areas, and you can pick whether they'll start in your starting spots, and you will pick whether they are fleets or armies. Now, the way that this game works is the first turn, you have 30 minutes to make discussions with other players. You can go off in corners of the room, you can go to another room, you can write notes, you can try to overhear other people. Really, anything goes. You have 30 minutes, but then you are going to write your orders down and turn them in. You must write them in, turn them in by a specific time, or your moves don't count. You must write your moves absolutely correctly. If you miswrite a move, too bad. If you write a move that you cannot do, it does not go off. And the exact notation is up to the players. I mean, it's not really that difficult. The basic move, let's say I want to move this army here from Warsaw into Prussia. So I simply could write on my things, I would write Warsaw to Prussia. All right? It doesn't really matter what I write on these like that, but that's very obvious. Warsaw is moving to Prussia. Each piece can only go once. It would move right in there. However, let's say that the German army also wrote that they would go into Prussia. Well, only one person can go into an area at a time, so they would basically bounce back into the area that they were going in. I could also just write Warsaw holds. That means they're just going to stay where they're at. You want to give an order to each of your people. If you don't give an order to a unit, it's as if you wrote hold that it's going to stay there. Well, this seems like everything is going to bounce back all the time. And how are you ever going to capture somebody else if you can't move into their territory? Well, the way that you're going to do that is through support. So let's say, for example, that Russia's in Prussia and Austria-Hungary is here, and Russia wants to go to Berlin. The problem is that Berlin is not going to be able to. They don't want to move. So Prussia might say they're going to move into Berlin, and then Austria would write something to the effect of that. Where are they at? They're at Silesia. It's hard to read that upside down. So I'd say Silesia supports Prussia going to Berlin. So when that happens, I am supporting them. It is basically 2-on-1, and then they'll move in. You can only support something if you also could go to that spot, if you also could move into that area. So when you support someone, you'll notice that this is Austria helping out Russia, so you have to make deals. You can support your own pieces, but you only have a few pieces on the board, so you're also going to have to work with other people. You're also going to want to grab, there's all sorts of supply centers all over the board that are neutral at the beginning of the game, and you want to grab those. But eventually you're going to want to go after other players, because to win this game you need 18 supply centers. And so you're going to be using a combination of move, holds, and supports. Now, supports is the main focus of the game because that's how you are able to do anything. There's also an extra one called convoy, where if you have a fleet in water and you have an army there, that army can convoy across that fleet into another area. But again, you have to write the orders right. This fleet, all it does is convoy, and then this army can move, and you have to write both those orders down. There's all kinds of combinations that can happen, like let's say black is going to be going here, white attacks this, black holds, red is coming in for support. This black, though, hits that, so they cut that support off. So since they cut that support off, then this attack does not happen because they both bounce off each other. So you're going to have to work together and think about all the different moves that could be made. In fact, it's even possible for armies to move in different areas, and I captured yours, you captured mine. You have to keep track of fleets. Remember, fleets can't move into land. Some spots, like up on the top of the board here, have a north and south coast, so you have to differentiate which coast you're on. Like this one starts in the south coast, so it can't move to the Barents Sea. It can only move out here, or it can move up into Finland and things like that. So players are going to have 30 minutes before their first move. Then you turn in your orders, and all orders happen simultaneously. Then you have 15 minutes, and you just keep going and going and going until one person gets to 18 supply centers, or until everybody mutually decides that the game can't end or whatever. Then it's just a draw, or basically until everyone concedes to one player. That is essentially how you play diplomacy. Realize I didn't go over every detail, even though the moves are simple. There's all sorts of things about exactly the support order in itself can be confusing sometimes on how exactly it turns out. And the convoy is not as complicated, but there's just different rules. This is a 7-player game, but you can play with fewer players. You just have to take out some of the countries and basically make them neutral units on the board. Now, I think, to start out, this is one of your favorite games of all time.
Yes, it was
it
in
number
my
2
top
or
10.
3?
It was number 2.
Number 2.
No, it was number 3. It was number 3, actually.
But still, out of the thousands of games you played, that's pretty high up. It's also on my top 3,000 or 4,000 games. Now, diplomacy, there's a couple things, and I'll start out by saying he really likes it, and I really don't. However, before I get chewed up on the caveat that I don't like it, I do realize some benefits to this game, and I have enjoyed games of it, and I'll get to that in a second, how that works. Okay, but there's a couple things you need to realize. First of all, this game is long. It's incredibly long.
Yes.
A game taking 5, 6, 7 hours is not an uncommon thing.
Even longer, I would say. I mean, if you fully play it out until someone gets 18 centers, you could be playing a 10-hour plus game of it.
Secondly, very few people play diplomacy in person anymore.
Correct.
Most diplomacy playing happens over the internet. There's at least 4 or 5 programs out there that allow you to play, and then you can make moves. Because this game really lends itself well to that, you can make a move, have all kinds of communication over you can make a move per day, you can make a move per week, and if you play that way, the game will take months.
Yeah, but
have you ever played one of these online games?
Yes, I have many times, actually.
Wow, so you're not normally one for online game playing.
Well, this was back in the old days.
Wait, were you playing by mail?
Play by email, yes.
Oh, okay, play by email. Okay.
Not with postage stamps, but by email.
The second thing you need to realize about this game is you can play it with less than 7 players, but it's not nearly as good. I would say I have a minimum of 5, and even 5 I'd be hazy on.
No, I think you need all 7. I don't think you could play it without all 7.
Yeah, if you're going to play with 6, what would you do? Drop Austria, maybe?
Italy gets dropped in 6.
Italy gets dropped in 6? Okay.
Yes.
So, yeah, but really the balance is so precarious there that it's best to play with a full complement of players.
Yes.
Then the third thing you need to realize is that some nations are just not as good as others. That's just the way it is.
That's not true.
No, listen. I'm not saying they're not as good. Maybe I should rephrase it. They're much harder to play.
Correct.
Austria, Italy, and Germany are the three hardest countries to play because they're in the middle.
They're in the middle. You have to do more negotiation to try to make good allies to survive.
England and Turkey are on the two corners. They have the easiest time. I would always recommend a new player play those.
Yes, I agree. And France is also sort of a corner-ish.
France and Russia are kind of...
Yes.
And Russia starts out the game a little more powerful than everyone else. It doesn't seem. 4-3 doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it kind of is.
It is, but Russia has more countries bordering it, so it balances out.
Now, diplomacy has a few rules, and yet every time someone plays it for the first time, they mess up. Because it's a difficult game to kind of grok. Like, okay, I can go here, but I need support. And 90% of the time, you supporting your own units isn't worth it. You need other people to support your units. At the beginning, you support your own stuff for a bit, but almost immediately, you need other people to support your moves and such.
Yes.
And where diplomacy gets its reputation from, though, is what is called as the backstab. Now, there's several types of backstabs that occur in diplomacy. One is I go to Jason, I say, Jason, I really need your help. He says, you know what? Too bad. And that happens a lot in diplomacy. Or like, look, we've had an agreement, I'm breaking it. The worst kind, though, is when Jason says, I have your back, and then he makes some moves and conquers some of my supply centers.
Yeah, so I'll watch Tom. He'll move, he'll be England, and he'll try to move into Russia, and I'll be Germany and say, sure, I'll help you into Russia. And then secretly I will send my German guy into his thing and move into England instead and take over England while he's out trying to take Russia when I don't help him.
And those moments of betrayal are tough. But like I said, they don't always happen in every game. I've seen games of diplomacy without any betrayal at all. More, not necessarily betrayal, but like, look, I know we had a pact, but just so you know, that's over now.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think in order to actually win the game, because to win you have to take 18 centers, and that's a lot because there's 34 in the game, so you're talking more than half you have to take to win.
True, but most games I've seen of diplomacy end by concession. They're like, all right, I can't win at this point, you win.
True. But that's the thing that I feel is that in order to win, you can't make enemies with everyone. You need to find a strong ally and work with the ally and work with someone else and say, let's just be a strong team and work together and use our units together to slowly both take over territory with each other. And I think that's an important aspect that most people don't think about when they play. All they think about is, how am I going to backstep people? How am I going to attack people? But in reality, you don't want to attack everyone, and you want friends in this game.
Now, here are my problems with diplomacy, and you can argue against these. This is why I don't play diplomacy. First of all, one thing I don't like about diplomacy is that it has both player elimination and pseudo-player elimination. Player elimination by you get knocked out of the game, right?
Yes.
Pseudo-player elimination where you're down to one supply center and everyone ignores you, and you can essentially not do very much.
It depends. If you're in... It depends what position you're in.
I understand, but you have to admit that there are some times where you can just be locked into a position, and the countries and people will not work with you. There's nothing you can do. You can't do anything by yourself in this game when you're down to one supply center.
See, I disagree with you because I was down to one supply center, and I was on the border between two people and a different two people. And I said to these groups, I said, which one wants my support? Which one wants my support? If you want my support, I'm going to be the one who attacks that other country so I can get back up to 2 supply centers. And then I got up to 2, then I got up to 3, and I worked my way back up.
No. I agree. I understand that you can do that. But if both sides say, forget you, Jason, there is nothing you can do then.
But then they get in a stalemate line. See, that's one of the things about this game is there are stalemate lines where you could be stalemated and you could bump forces and never advance. And you need that extra person. You need that extra piece to get that extra support to advance. So
I
instead
agree
of
it's possible. I'm just saying that sometimes it happens. Like if it happens with Turkey. If Turkey gets down to one supply center, the countries around them can be like, hey, have fun.
No, because if let's say Austria came on one side and Russia came on the other side, as Turkey, I would say, look, Austria, if you want to advance, let me attack Russia and take a center from Russia, which will help you in the long run, and I will also get a second center, and then I will be your ally in the future. And you could work your way out of those situations, and you can't just give up in this game. No matter, until you lose everything, you don't give up.
I understand you don't give up, but I don't care what he says, folks. There can be games where you will sit there for hours having little or nothing to do because you'll be like, I'll help you. And they're like, okay, we'll take your help. Okay, now we're going to go spend 15 minutes talking over the real strategy. And you sit there and wait for the real strategy to be made.
But see, that's just saying, oh, I'll help you. I never say I'll help you. I always say, you want my help? I'm going to be the one to attack.
Yes, I know, but you still don't have a lot to do. You have one unit to move.
Yes, but it doesn't matter if you have one
Everyone
unit
else
or
is
12
spending
units.
15 minutes talking about all these different things, and there's not a lot that you can be involved with.
But you could be very strong in it. I disagree with you strongly on this because you could be involved in this game. You could be involved when you're down to 1 unit, 2 units. You can still be involved, and you could, depending which side of the people who have 12 and 13 units each, depending who you work with on that thing, one of those people is going to go down, and one of those people is going to go up, and you have to negotiate between the two of them and balance out and say which one do I really want to go with in the long term.
All right, now respond to my thing about actual player elimination, because that is not a positive thing. If you are eliminated in hour 3 of a 7-hour game, you don't want to sit around and watch people, so you go home?
No, well, what I do with diplomacy when we have played it in person, which is a lot. I mean, I probably played at least 100 games in person of it in my life, and we usually bring like a 1-player game, a 2-player game, a bunch of other games with it. So the first person out could play like a solo game for a little bit. Then when the second person gets knocked out, they could play a 2-player game.
Yes, and that's all well and good, yay, but it still isn't fun, all right? It isn't fun to be knocked out of a game and seeing everyone else having fun for the next 3 or 4 hours.
No, I've been knocked out first, and you just say, okay, this wasn't my day, everyone attacked me.
Okay, now this is garbage because this brings me to my second point. This game makes people mad. This game causes stress. This game makes people upset. I've seen people cry. I've seen people yell. I've seen Jason get upset in this game. Okay, it happens. Now, when the game is over, you can shake it off, and you should shake it off.
Yeah.
But this game has literally destroyed friendships. It has literally made people angry with each other for weeks. It has caused us problems. When I play this game, I feel this stress. Oh, everyone's coming after me. And I don't mind that, right, in an hour game. But in a 7-hour game, that stress to me is overwhelming, and I don't like a game where people are actively getting upset with each other.
See, the thing is, it depends how you play the game. I don't usually try to backstab people. In fact, I try to do the opposite of backstabbing, and you don't end up with bad relations that way because you usually have a strong ally and you work with the ally. And if you work with an
occasionally
ally,
your ally is going to have to turn on you.
No, they don't. That's the whole thing. If you have a strong ally and you work with them, you never need to turn on them the whole game. And the whole turning it backstab, people like to do it because it's cool and fun. And
I'm not even talking about the backstab. I'm talking about the front stab where like, hey, I know you, me, and Germany, we had a 3-way thing here. And now that we've kind of taken everybody else out, sorry, you're on the bottom of that. Me and Germany are coming after you. What do you do then? Then you get mad.
No, you build up a wall.
I've seen you get mad in that. You cannot say that you don't get mad.
You haven't seen me play this, though.
I have. I watched you play that cool stuff the one time.
Oh, yes, you did watch me play that.
And I've seen a lot of people get mad in this. A lot of people. I very rarely get angry during games, but in this game I've been angry before, and I don't want to play a game that gets me angry.
But it's the kind of game where you can get angry, but you brush it off. I would never take it personally out of the game after the game because it's a game, and you still have to realize it's a game. And and the fact that it stretches out over such a long period makes it even more tense, and I like that. I like that you have tenseness going the whole time, and you're like, are they telling me the truth? Are they not telling me the truth? If I do this, but I always try to plan my moves in a way that if someone did lie to me, that I'm still protecting myself and protecting my own border. So I always try to protect my own border first, but still work with someone. So I'm not a believer of fast growth and spreading and then not having any reinforcements in the back. I'm a proponent of slow growth and spreading slowly and keeping your reinforcements in the back to protect your home as well. And if you do that, you usually don't have to worry about people doing things like that because you're protected enough that they're not going to do it, because if they do it, it would hurt them as well.
All right. Well, I did say there's some good. One of the things I like about the game is that it is an excellent classroom tool. One of the best ways to play diplomacy, if you can pull this off, is to have a huge group of people and the best way is to have 49 players, right? 7 people per turn, and each person is an ambassador to one other country. So I'm on the Turkey team, and I'm the ambassador to England. I'm on the Turkey team, and I'm ambassador to Russia. So that's really interesting, right? If you can have that many people. But in a classroom setting, let's say you have 20 people, you can split them up into teams. Let's say 3 people per team, and you have them come in each day and make their moves, and you put all the moves in, and a computer is so much better for the moves, by the way, because you just type everything in and it happens.
Yes.
But they can then, for the rest of the day, they can talk, they can email, they can make phone calls, they can go in the back corners and make things, and it's so fascinating for kids. And it teaches about a war which almost no one knows about. These days, I mean, everyone talks about World War II and all that. Very few people know about World War I. So that's an interesting thing. So I like that. I think the game itself is well designed, but for me, it's too long. I don't like player elimination, and it causes me undue stress. My awesomeness rating for this one is unfortunately a 3. Again, I understand that the game, objectively, is well designed, but I hate it.
See, we have to disagree again because the game, well, I agree with you, the game is very well designed, but I disagree about the player elimination because if you're playing in a group, there's always other things for people to do if they get knocked out of a game. This is not the only game where people get knocked out.
No, but that is a bad thing in games. Almost every game on my shelves behind me does not have player elimination. And anyone that does is an hour or less. I have no game that's like 2+ hours with player elimination.
Your favorite
that's
game,
a bad thing.
Wait, your favorite game of all time, Cosmic Encounter, if you lose all 20 ships, you're eliminated. So
have you ever played a game where that has happened?
But that game has player elimination.
Have you ever seen the game that's happened?
I have seen a game where that's happened.
Man, yeah. Was the person the masochist and then won? Because that's a special power.
No, I've seen a game where that happened. I was the one who lost all 20, so I could tell you.
But you can get them back then. You get them back through Mobius tubes.
No, if you lose all 20, you're out of the game.
Okay, I've never seen that happen. Garbage. Straw man.
So there we go. But the stress, I think, is what makes this game as great as it is. The fact that you don't know if people are telling you the truth, you don't know if people are lying, and you have to kind of weigh the opinions of 6 other people at the table to figure out what you want to do, and you have to decide who am I going to go with, who am I not. I think that is the genius of this game and why I give this game an awesomeness rating of 10, because it is that good. It really boils down to there's not a lot of depth in terms of the actual what you do. I either move or I move by land, I move by sea, I hold in a place, I support, I convoy. There's 5 different things you could do for your troops. That's it. But the mastery of this game and the whole game is about the negotiation. And if you just want to learn pure negotiation, if you want to learn it for even things outside of the board gaming world, for how to handle business and how to deal with people in business and other things, this is just a great tool for this.
I don't recommend you always play this game like you treat other people in business. But
no, I'm not saying to backstab people, but you learn how to negotiate with people a lot better, and you learn negotiation skills and how to make deals with people, and I think it's a really, really strong game for that. And again, I give it an awesomeness rating of 10, and I think it's something everyone should try at least once in their life, and they will see how these mechanics have been used in many games beyond this game, and how the core mechanic of this game has been added to so many games over the years.
All right, well, that is diplomacy.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.